Episode 1 of the P&B podcast. We have our special friend here, Duke. Say hello, buddy. Say hello, buddy. But yeah, so we're here to talk about some pretty loaded stuff. We're here to talk about masculinity and toxic masculinity and what is a man and what do you believe is a man. So yeah, I'm going to share some things, you're going to share some things, your thoughts and ideas. Some of the information that I gathered, I interviewed 6 people at Texas Tech campus, which was really weird. I don't know if I told you I did that. Yeah. I just walked up to people and I can't get the footage together. It's too large to put it all together into one with all the questions. I asked 5 questions. But,
what did you ask?
Shoot, I forgot. It's on a list. I have to.
Okay.
My phone's dead, but yeah, I asked some pretty interesting questions. But we're gonna get right into it. So, let's just talk about it. So, like masculinity, right? What is it? I'm gonna define it, and then you define it, and we'll kind of talk about it. So, masculinity to me is. Hurt her finger at work. Masculinity is a man who displays like these characteristics, being strong physically and emotionally, and that doesn't mean like in the gym like that that's a plus always, but I mean like a guy who can like one trip from the grocery bags, you know what I mean, from the car, like just whatever.
Well, I'm like mentally.
Or like lifting stuff up and things like that, like doing the extra stuff around the house. I think that's masculine.
I think mentally strong too.
Yeah, mental strength. Being able to be like, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna figure it out. I think both people kind of have to have that though, like in a team. But I think masculinity, being a leader, thinking outside the box, looking for solutions to problems, trying to fix things. I believe masculinity is also being a good father, especially if you have children, or just being a good male figure to people, even if you don't have your own children. Being protector is a big one. That's kind of gone out the window. A lot of people are just like pulling their phones out, and recording people like getting beat up and stuff. It's like, dude, it's like it could be like an innocent person who just is getting.
And that's why I'm lucky I have you.
I mean, sometimes it gets you into more trouble than you really wanted to, right?
Yeah.
But right, but yeah, I think protector is like honestly probably the biggest one to me. It's like when I think about that. Something that I'm personally, emotional stability. I feel like a masculine man or somebody who's displaying masculinity is very emotionally stable. It's like you tell the guy, dude, your car got wrecked, your dog died, your house is about to be destroyed by a tornado, and he's literally just like, all right, first things first, all right, we're gonna make sure the car's okay. Like he's like just very emotionally like. Not like, what's going on? Like freaking out,
Yeah.
So that's a version of masculinity for me. So what about you? And I'm basing this off of like, some of it is what my father was like growing up. I grew up with a single dad, but he remarried later. But kind of my dad and kind of my own perspective too. It's really not my dad as much because there's a lot of things that he's not a perfect guy, but yeah.
I think I base it off of how I look up to my grandpa and my dad on both sides, really. Not necessarily, I didn't really meet any of my mom's side of the family, but my dad's like my biggest role model. He's very devoted to his work, to his family, to the church. He's a big believer in God, and I think that's why I am the way I am.
We'll talk about it. You have 5 siblings, right?
Yeah. So
like he's a provider. He's got to provide for like 6 women.
Oh.
Because your mom works, right? But she didn't work. She didn't work for.
I say he's like the breadwinner in my family, to say the least. Now, not really anymore. My parents both work. My mom used to be a teacher full time, and now she's in this new
job she hates.
Yeah. Job she hates.
So I want to talk about that real quick.
It's
though.
more to the money, right?
It's kind of an off-topic question, but why do you think that is now? We're seeing that. So like, if you ever thought about like your grandparents, maybe even your great grandparents, they were able to live off of one income, right? Like it was like your grandpa worked. Like people say you could work in a factory, but let's just say like, I mean, you literally could do that, but you could have a very like mild job where you have to have some skill, but you don't have to have like all this expensive college degree and like all these things, a master's degree. You don't have to have all this like qualifications and stuff. Get a job, you work there, you like can really invest your time into a company, and you will be able to own a house, 2 cars, vacations, 2 kids, like the American dream thing,
Yeah.
And it's like that's gone away. So like you're not the only one. Like my dad, when I was growing up, he remarried, and my stepmom worked too. So it's like it's really rare. It's honestly really rare to see the whole like stay-at-home mom situation anymore because of how expensive it is now to live. And the thing about that though is like this is kind of not really masculinity talk, but like okay, so if you have both parents providing, who really is losing there? Like you allow, or you like women are able to go work and like make that choice if they want, right? But now it's really not a choice. It's like women and men have to go work to support their family. So it's not even a choice anymore.
The economy's so expensive.
Yeah, it's not even a choice anymore. It's like, all right, you have to go work, It's like...
I mean, my grandparents didn't even...
And I will say, what do you think too about this? To shift it back to masculinity, we talked about this in class for a little bit. I never talked to you about it, but I mean, me and my dad used to make jokes about it. But like a stay-at-home dad.
I mean, I think a stay-at-home dad's cool.
Like the mom comes home, like mom goes to work and comes home, and like the dad.
I mean, it's just like a stay-at-home mom.
You don't think that's weird a little bit? No, be honest.
No, I really don't think so.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty odd. I don't know. It's just maybe I have a more traditional.
Exactly.
sense.
That's more. The stay-at-home mom is the more true. I mean, I want to be a stay-at-home mom when I'm younger, and I want you to go work. And
when you're older,
when I'm older, yes. And I want you to go work and you to provide for our family in the future. But it's just like I don't think that's necessarily weird to. It's like out of the normal, right? But
you think like that's like you think that's a normal thing? Like if you saw that, like I'm not saying
no. Like, can I say something?
Yeah.
My dad stayed at home and worked from home.
That's not what I mean.
No.
Hey, we're in a podcast, buddy.
No.
But all right,
I don't think that's really that weird.
Okay. All right. Well, I do.
What's your
Next topic is Do you believe that it's kind of shifting, right? Like the attitudes towards masculinity, right? Like men are now kind of categorized.
Men are too tough. Men.
That's so the toxic masculinity stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so I learned this also in class, and this was very interesting to me. So there's 2 forms of like sexism, right? There's benevolent sexism and hostile sexism. So, and this only applies to men towards women. So, like a toxically masculine man would be like the way that I feel. The way that from what I understand, people describe it as is it's a man who can either be toxic or can be hostile sexist.
What does that mean?
Or okay, so hostile sexism is like if I were to approach you and be like, you like shut up. You shouldn't have an opinion. You're a freaking woman. Oh. That's hostile sex.
Like you have no right.
Yeah, like that type of thing.
Okay.
Like you shouldn't be allowed to do anything. Like you should be back. You should be never allowed to leave the home. Like whatever, right?
Okay, and then what's the other side?
Benevolent is more like you'd call it like chivalrous. So like opening the door for a woman.
Yeah.
That's benevolent, sexist. That there's like that's like a topic in school or that we were taught is that's like a sexist act.
Interesting.
And so I like thought about that and I was like, wow, I'm a benevolent sexist, I guess.
I mean, my dad always told me, you better marry the one who opens the door for you.
Right.
That's just like, that's like manners at the end of the day.
Right.
You know? Like, that's like.
I mean, that's just like a custom in, I guess, our culture, right?
Well, I don't know. Not really anymore.
That's what I'm saying. It's like getting washed out. So it's like really.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm a woman.
So it's toxically.
I'm a boss woman,
It's
and I can
toxically.
go
Yeah.
my
Well,
own
it's
door.
toxically.
Which, like,
You
I
can. Yeah.
I can do my own things, but like, I mean, I can do.
Like, would you get offended? Like, could you ever see yourself ever getting offended by a man who like opened the door for you and he was like, "Oh, you're welcome, little girl," or something like that, even though you're like a fully grown woman? Would you be offended by that?
Little. I mean, I hope they just say you're welcome or thank you.
But what if they're like, "You're welcome,"
I mean,
like sweet girl or something like that?
what's wrong with sweet girl?
Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Some people view that as sexist.
I don't think that's sexist.
To pull it back into masculinity, the idea of like toxically masculine, right? So like here's like a real insider into like the male brain, right? And this is like a really important part of toxic masculinity is the whole the emphasis on emotional like stoicism, right? So if I'm not doing good emotionally, right, and like people are asking me, "Are you okay, Paul?" And I'm like, "I'm fine," like whatever. That can like obviously take a toll on you, right? But what if I were to tell you that like for centuries, like from what I understand, like my father's generation, my grandfather's generation, men talk about their problems, but not in the open, like not amongst like their wives and their girlfriends and stuff. You know what I mean? And I will say, it is true. Unfortunately, it does happen under the influence of alcohol. It does.
But I feel like sometimes, me personally, like, I mean, I just know you and I know when something's going on, and I want you to try and open up to me. That makes sense?
But okay, so
like,
here's okay. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you because I said let me give you the insider into like a male, like the male's brain. Okay. My brain is I wouldn't by me telling you my problems. What am I gaining out of that?
I mean, for example, say you're super stressed. Like yesterday, we cleaned the whole house because that's just like one thing that is gonna make it less stressful.
Okay, but that's doing something. I'm talking about talking about it. Like, I was to sit down with you and be like,
no, but that's...
I'm so stressed. Like, all these things are bothering me. Like, don't you think that... that's not even really a feminine thing to do either. It's just like, you're complaining.
For me, I can't bottle up my feelings. Like, I have to tell you how I'm feeling.
Right. And that's kind of a health... You deal with emotions very... women deal with emotions like broad spectrum a lot healthier than men do, for
I've
sure.
also seen close friends, even guys, that bottle up their emotions until
they explode.
It gets to suicide.
Yeah.
And like that's not good either. So I.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that's something also too. 78% of suicides are men. It's like 3 out of 4 people at like more than that.
I mean, men when they're young, they're told to tough it up.
That's toxic masculinity. That's what they're saying is toxic masculine.
No, I mean it is toxic, but it's also like men have feelings too. In my I see your feelings. Like you might not show them as much, but I mean I'm way more emotional than you are. But that's just how I am.
She looks like she's about to cry right now.
I just like get watery.
But also too, crying isn't like that's an emotional thing too. I feel like I'm an extremely emotional person.
Yeah, but you don't cry.
But that's just one emotion though.
You're
anger.
Rage.
Yeah, I have rage.
Anger management. Gustava.
So that's unhealthy, right? And there's things with that too.
Well,
so,
you work through it.
Yeah. Well, and part of it too is
there's a difference.
Part of it too is as a man to so here's something that we're going to talk about 2 more things, but before we get to those 2 things, I want to mention this idea of toxic masculinity. It's weighing down on men. Some people say that might be what's causing men to commit suicide and a lot of these mental health problems. Men aren't seeking For anybody. They're not seeking help through mental health services. So I think part of that tough it up thing, like self-talk stuff, like you're a man, you need to toughen it up, whatever. That's not going to get you out of bed at the end of the day and like get on with your life. So, you too. So,
no.
I think what's really causing the problem with men isn't the idea of toxic masculinity. I think it's the lack of it.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's not necessarily a good thing for a guy not to be. So if you look back like 100 years, we're not talking about our emotions like that. The suicide rate's grown. So if men are being so much more open with their emotions these days, why is the suicide rate so high? I think it's because they're being told that being masculine is toxic. Being competitive is toxic. Being yourself is toxic. Making jokes.
See, but where is this?
Going to the gym.
Like, that's my question for society. Like, where did we change so much where, like all that stuff is toxic? It's not good. Being competitive. There's nothing wrong with being competitive. Maybe you can take it a little too far. I feel like I'm very competitive and my family is very competitive. But
nah, you guys don't take it too far though.
We don't take it exactly. We don't take it too far where someone's like, like hurt or.
I just don't see the point in like
and like toxicity with going to the gym. I never go to the gym. I need to.
But see, that's a lot of guys' outlet. So what I will say is this mental health.
You, when you go to the gym, you are so much calmer and
yeah,
you're like put together. When you don't, it's noticeable to me. Because you're more all over the place. Like gym is like that's your hobby. That's like what you enjoy. So I don't really understand how that's toxic.
No, I'm saying like the hyper competitiveness, the ultra tough stuff. They even say like homophobia, like even if you make like certain jokes, it can be it's like.
Yeah.
Why is society moving in? I don't think that's the right way for society to move in. And I think we're doing a disservice to not only men themselves but women too. I mean, what's a woman like I talked about earlier with being protective? What is a woman, regardless of what people say, right? Which I talked about in my paper. 80% of police officers are male. So if you need a I don't need a husband. I don't need a man. I don't need no man. I can just call the police if I am in trouble. Four times out of 5, it's gonna be a man. So you're calling on a man to come help you. So it's like +2.
I mean,
+2.
Like, if
is that toxically masculine to be a protector?
On the road, who's gonna come help you? A man.
Probably. Well, that's also something I talked about too. Is majority of the trades, the harder jobs, the jobs. That not harder, but the jobs that take a level of physical ability and the ability to work for 12 hours a day. You want to work 12 hours a day. I want to work 12 hours a day. Majority of people don't want to do that, and we really are only seeing men go do that. It's really like a male-dominated thing, and also too.
Cool that there's
but here's the problem though.
But
but here's the problem though. Is like when you talk about equality with like things
and rights.
No, but women only talk about equality in the positions of power, of the positions of CEO, the positions of being president, politics, governor, mayor, judges, Supreme Court judges. They never want to talk about equality like 50-50 because they're 50% of the population, 50-50 in the trades, 50-50 in combat, like. I'm not saying I'm for women in combat either. I'm an old-fashioned person when it comes to these things. I think these things were set up in a way that brings society success over time. And maybe like these things that were like supposedly are progress and that are new, maybe they've been tried in the past and they didn't work out. You know what I mean? So, like, for the idea for, like, she's a tough woman, but at the end of the day, there's some weird noises down here in the downstairs part of the house.
I'm running.
She's standing in the room. She's going, Paul, I heard something downstairs. I am a man. It's my responsibility to go down there and investigate it.
I mean, yeah.
Was that decided at birth? I guess it was, because I have an XY chromosome.
Protector, yeah.
No, but
also you were like, I feel like you're
like, do we want to get to a place?
Your dad raised you to be a protector.
But do we want our society to get to a point where that's like like men are like, I ain't doing that. That's your job. Like,
no.
But it's almost like the response that women are prompting out of men is like, nah, y'all want to be the same as men? Like, y'all want to be like equality? Then yeah, you go check out the noise downstairs. You go be construction workers.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the viewpoint of men, and like what a man is a man. A man is somebody who puts other people before himself. So I think a lot of what's going on in today's society with men is this culture of you need to put your own priorities and your own self first, right? And it's like, to an extent, right? Like ambition, you get your career or whatever, yeah. But when it comes to having a family and things like that, and you have your wife and things like that, a good man does not come first. You know what I'm saying? Women and children off the boat. You know what I mean? That's the type of like person that I am.
Yeah.
I hold those viewpoints. So what a man is a man is somebody who, it doesn't matter how hard your job is. It doesn't matter what's going on in your head. Like if you're sad or whatever, like you're burnt out, whatever. Yeah, that's okay. It's part of life. Get over it. You got people that care about you, that are relying on you to provide. So it's like, I guess that's toxic. I mean, but it built, like, this toxic framework built this entire society. So it's like, what's the problem with that? Are we at a point now where it's like, our society's so good that men don't need to be men anymore? I think that's really what it comes down to. But a man is somebody who, boils down to that, is somebody who puts the needs of other people over himself. And it's like, this needs to be done, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to complain about like the conditions it's in or whatever.
He's a leader.
No, I'm going to go do this.
Selfless leader.
It's
a perfect example.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, what a man is. Would you agree?
Yeah, completely. This was a great podcast.
I talked a lot right there for a second. I don't know if you want to share some of your last thoughts here, because we're at 23 minutes.
I know, we're getting kind of close.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you said a whole lot, but I don't know. I mean, I obviously don't have the brain of a man, but I think that there's some pretty great men.
Provider, protector.
Hey, let me speak.
Sorry, that was toxically masculine. My bad.
But I mean, I have some pretty great men in my life, so yeah. I mean, I want a man to be protector, provider, a selfless person, putting his family before himself, like working on cars and doing all that, because like I think that's important, and I want to be a teacher, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, so I need someone to be able to provide for my family, because teaching is not going to make enough money.
Well, and it's like this whole idea of masculinity has really come a long way.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather's generation, like the American man at that time was, you could give them the parts to a car and to put it back together, and they'd like be able to figure it out. Today, men are hopeless, man. They can't even do their own oil changes.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing with cars.
Yeah.
It took me a while. I had to learn. You have to learn the skills.
I mean,
I know, but no man just instinctively.
My dad doesn't know how to work with cars.
Yeah, he doesn't. Her dad asks me what I think about it. He's like, what do you think about this?
He's very smart and manly in other ways.
Right. So that's also something we're gonna close out on this thought is there's certain characteristics of masculinity in society, but I do believe that I think it is a positive notion in society now that each man kind of decides what that is. Like they display their masculinity in their own ways. Mm-hmm. So like your dad doesn't there's a problem with a car, he's not gonna know.
No, I feel like my dad is the perfect.
That's fine though.
Girl's dad, you know,
right?
Like he deals with he's very tough. He goes to the gym all the time. He knows if anyone's in trouble.
Well, he knows he's got 5 daughters. The guy coming through the door is supposed to be like the boyfriend. He's got to be a little bit intimidated, right? He's got to be a little bit intimidated.
He's gonna be tough, but he's also he loves doing yard work, and he's a realtor, and he's very devoted to his job and life and church. Like he was a deacon and an elder for years at our church,
right?
Which is it shows a lot of leadership. You know, like he won best dad in Capel.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me that?
This was
see, there's no better award than that. I'm telling you, you could be a billionaire. You know, that goes for men and women too. There's no better award than best dad, best mom.
There's a best mom award too.
Yeah, there's no better award than that. Employee of the year. Ooh, you're CEO. Ooh, who cares? Like I have my family. I'm able to. Yeah.
Moral of the story, I think that there should be a switch into society's thinking toxic masculinity and all the bad things about masculinity.
Like some of it is not even like masculinity. It's just a guy being a dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
bullying and stuff like that.
There are some mean people out there.
That's not toxic masculinity though. That's just a guy being an asshole, you know? Yeah.
Let's wrap this up because we're at 26 minutes.
Okay. So I guess that's gonna be it for this podcast. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining along.
And I will admit, throughout the year I'd come home.
We have conversations about this daily.
Yeah, I'd come home from this specific class.
Sometimes arguments.
Before I'd go back to work, because I would go to work early in the morning and then go to class and come back and go back to work.
Yeah. And
I would come back here and I would be talking to her and I'd look at my watch and an hour would go by already and I'm like, oh my god, what am I talking about this?
Yep,
so I'm very passionate.
That's why 30 minutes has gone by almost.
Right, I'm very passionate about this entire issue here because I feel like men just we don't have the voice, you know, of dude, I mean, plumbers, construction work, guys who maintain society, guys who have died for the society in combat, in wars, they didn't want to be there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to do the rest of your life is fight.
But I'm saying those guys, though, it's how are we going to sit here and, just call them they were oppressive people? And so it's dude, those are men. I aspire to be like those guys, dude. Those guys did very courageous things. That's also something I didn't touch on is men are courageous. They do daring things. Things that you're just how did you have the balls? Or testicular fortitude, as I've heard it.
My dad one time jumped over a whole entire fire.
For what? Well, that's just being a young guy.
No.
Being a young guy.
No, he wasn't young. This was 6 years ago.
What the?
At our Indian princess.
You don't hear mom doing that. It's
No. My mom, the most daring thing she did is kill a snake.
In the garden?
Yeah.
All right, well, that's been the podcast. I'm P, this is B. Until next time.
We out.